I'm Delphine, 32 years old, and I thought I knew what family meant. I thought the people who raised me would stand by my choices, celebrate my victories. But sometimes the ones who should believe in you first believe in you last. That Thanksgiving dinner changed everything. They called me unemployed, laughed at my life's work. 3 weeks later, Time magazine named me Person of the Year, and suddenly everyone wanted a second chance. Before I tell you what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below, hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe because this story will show you why validation from the world means nothing if you don't validate yourself first. Looking back now, I can pinpoint the exact moment my relationship with my family started cracking. It wasn't Thanksgiving. It was years earlier, the day I turned down Google. I was 25, fresh out of Stanford, with an engineering degree that had cost my parents over $200,000. The offer letter sat on my desk. $140,000 a year. Stock options, free meals, a shuttle to work. My father stood behind me, reading over my shoulder, already planning how he'd brag to his golf buddies. I clicked decline. The silence in that room was deafening. My mother walked in, saw my father's face, and knew immediately. She didn't yell. She just looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before. Disappointment mixed with genuine confusion, like I'd just told her I was moving to Mars. "You're turning down Google," she said. Not a question, a statement, an accusation. "I am," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "For what exactly?" I took a breath. "I'm starting a nonprofit, Clean Flow Initiative. We're going to bring clean water to communities in Africa and South Asia." My father laughed. Actually laughed. "With what money, Delphine? Do you know how nonprofits work? They don't work. They beg for donations and accomplish nothing." "That's not true. I've been researching this for 2 years. I have a plan. I've already secured initial funding from 3 foundations." "How much?" my mother asked. $60,000 to start." Another silence. 60,000, my father repeated slowly. "Google offered you 140,000 per year, and you're choosing 60,000 total. It's not about the money." "Everything is about money, Delphine. That's called being an adult." But I'd already made up my mind. 6 months earlier, I'd spent 3 weeks in Kenya on a volunteer trip. I met a girl named Amara. She was 8 years old, same age as my cousin's daughter back home. But while my cousin's daughter took piano lessons and went to summer camp, Amara walked 5 miles every morning before school to fetch water from a river. Water that was brown. Water that made her sick. Water that killed her baby brother the year before. I watched her carry that heavy container on her small shoulders, her feet bare and bleeding. I watched her miss school because the walk took too long. I watched her mother's face aged beyond her 30 years as she boiled the water that would still make them sick. That's when I knew. Google could wait. This couldn't. My family didn't understand. My older sister Victoria, already a rising associate at a Manhattan law firm, pulled me aside. "You're being selfish," she said. "Mom and Dad sacrificed everything for your education. This is how you repay them, by throwing it away." "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm using my education exactly how it should be used." She shook her head. "You're going to regret this." My younger brother Marcus, in his second year of medical school, was kinder but equally baffled. "I get wanting to help people, Del. That's why I'm becoming a doctor. But you can help people and still make a living. This feels like martyrdom." Maybe it was. Or maybe it was the first time in my life I was doing something that felt authentically mine. 2 years later, I was living in a one-bedroom apartment in Oakland, California. My rent was $1,800 a month, nearly half my salary. My annual income was $45,000. My Stanford classmates were buying condos. I was buying rice and beans in bulk. But Clean Flow Initiative had built 37 water wells. We'd brought clean water to over 50,000 people across Uganda, Tanzania, and parts of rural India. I designed a low-cost filtration system that local communities could maintain themselves. I trained 200 community members as water technicians, creating jobs and sustainability. Every morning I woke up to emails with photos, children drinking clean water, mothers crying with relief, girls going to school instead of spending 6 hours a day fetching water. These emails kept me going through the 80-hour work weeks, the mac and cheese dinners, the loneliness of choosing a path nobody in my family understood. My mother called every few months. The conversations always went the same way. "How are you, honey?" "Good, Mom, we just finished installing wells in 3 new villages." "That's nice, dear, but when are you going to get a real job?" A real job. As if saving lives wasn't real. As if engineering sustainable solutions to water scarcity wasn't real. As if the 50,000 people who now had access to clean water weren't real. "This is a real job, Mom." You know what I mean. A job with benefits, security, a future. "I have benefits, and this work is my future." She'd sigh, that disappointed sigh I'd grown to hate. Then she'd change the subject to Victoria's latest case or Marcus's surgical rotation. The successful children, the ones who made sense. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, everything shifted. I got a call from the United Nations Water Initiative. Clean Flow had been selected as their primary implementation partner for a massive expansion project. $30 million over 5 years. We'd scale to 10 countries, potentially impact over 2 million people. I cried in my office for 20 minutes. My assistant Jamie, a 24-year-old Berkeley grad who worked for barely above minimum wage because she believed in the mission, brought me tissues and terrible coffee. "This is it," she said, grinning. "This is the validation you needed." But it wasn't validation I needed. It was validation I wanted to give my family. Maybe now they'd understand. Maybe now they'd see that I hadn't wasted my Stanford degree. Maybe now Thanksgiving dinner wouldn't be an exercise in defending my life choices. I was wrong. I left Oakland at 5 in the morning the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. 6 hours to Westchester County, New York. 6 hours of rehearsing how I'd tell them about the UN contract. 6 hours of imagining their proud faces. The house looked the same as always. Large, impressive. The kind of house that screamed success to the neighbors. My father's Mercedes in the driveway next to my mother's Lexus. I pulled up in my 12-year-old Honda Civic, and I could already feel the judgment. My mother opened the door before I could knock. She looked me up and down, taking in my worn jeans and Stanford sweatshirt. "Oh, you're here. I thought you'd be too busy saving the world to make it for Thanksgiving." Not hello, not I missed you. Just a passive-aggressive comment about my life choices. "Hi, Mom. Good to see you too." She kissed my cheek, already distracted. "Victoria's in the living room. She just won a huge case. 7-figure settlement. We're so proud." Of course they were. I walked into the living room. Victoria sat on the leather couch, perfectly dressed in designer clothes, showing my father something on her phone. Marcus stood by the window, still in his scrubs from his hospital shift, looking tired but accomplished. "Dell." Marcus came over and hugged me. At least he was genuinely happy to see me. "How's the water business?" The water business, like it was a lemonade stand. "It's good. Really good, actually. I have some exciting news." But Victoria cut me off. "Wait, you have to hear this first. So the case I just won, the client was being sued for $8 million. I got it down to $1.2 million, and my firm's getting a $500,000 bonus. 500,000 Dell. Can you imagine?" I could imagine. I could also imagine 50,000 people drinking clean water, but apparently that wasn't impressive enough for this room. "That's great, Vic. Congratulations. But I wanted to tell you all that CleanFlow just got selected." "That's nice, honey," my mother interrupted. "But is it actually a paid position, or is this still volunteer work?" My father looked up from his phone. "She gets paid, Patricia. Not much, but something." "How much?" Victoria asked, suddenly interested. I shouldn't have answered. I knew I shouldn't have. But I wanted to be honest. 45,000 a year. The silence was worse than any words could have been. Victoria's eyebrows shot up. Marcus looked uncomfortable. My father went back to his phone like I'd just told him I worked at a fast food restaurant. 45, Victoria repeated. "My paralegal makes 60. My paralegal Dell." "I know it's not a lot by your standards, but the work is very noble, I'm sure," my mother said, using the tone she reserved for things she found cute but ultimately pointless. "But sweetheart, you're 32. Don't you want to think about your future? A house, retirement? You can't live on good intentions." I tried again. "I'm not just living on good intentions. We just secured a $30 million contract with the United Nations. We're expanding to 10 countries. This is huge." Marcus perked up. Wait, they're paying you 30 million? No, that's for the organization, for the projects over 5 years. So you personally still make 45,000. Yes, but nothing, my father interjected. Organizations don't matter, Delphine. Personal wealth matters, security matters. What do you have in your 401k? I didn't answer. She probably doesn't even have one, Victoria murmured. The doorbell rang. My Uncle Douglas and Aunt Linda arrived, followed by my cousin Tiffany and her husband. The house filled with voices, with hugs, with the smell of turkey, and the clinking of wine glasses. I should have felt at home. Instead, I felt like an outsider in my own family. Cocktail hour was worse. Uncle Douglas, a successful investment banker, cornered me in the kitchen. Delphine, still doing that water thing? When are you coming back to the real world? You've had your fun playing humanitarian, time to get serious. It's not playing Uncle Doug, it's my career. Career, he chuckled. A career pays the bills, sweetheart. What you're doing is a hobby with good PR. Aunt Linda joined us, wine glass in hand. Your mother is so worried about you, dear. No husband at 32, no real job. You know my friend's daughter works at Facebook. She could get you an interview. I don't want to work at Facebook. Of course you do. Everyone wants to work at Facebook. My cousin Tiffany, a marketing executive at a cosmetics company, squeezed my arm. Dell, I just bought a condo on the Upper East Side. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows. You should see it. Where do you live again? Oakland. Oh, California. That's nice. Rent or own? Rent. How much do you pay? Why did everyone in this family think finances were appropriate dinner conversation? $1,800 a month. For a 1-bedroom, yes. Tiffany's face did this thing where she tried to look sympathetic, but really just looked horrified. Oh, honey, I mean, that's a lot for rent. Have you thought about buying building equity? Not really a priority right now. Well, it should be. I mean, what's your 5-year plan? You can't rent forever. And at $45,000 a year. She trailed off, letting the implications hang in the air. I excused myself to help my mother in the kitchen, thinking maybe there I'd find some refuge. Wrong again. Delphine, can you stir this gravy? I stirred. She chopped. For a moment it was peaceful. Mom, I really want to tell you about the UN contract. It's a really big deal. Clean Flow is going to... That's wonderful, honey, I'm sure it is. But when are you going to settle down? Victoria's on track to make partner next year. Marcus just put a down payment on a house in Greenwich. What about you? What about me? What about your future? Your father and I didn't sacrifice everything for your education so you could live in a tiny apartment and make less than a teacher. There's nothing wrong with making less than a teacher. And there's nothing wrong with my life. No one said there was anything wrong with it. It's just not what we hoped for you. Not what they hoped for me. There it was, the truth underneath all the concerned questions and suggestions. I wasn't living the life they'd planned for me, so my life was somehow less than. I heard my father's voice from the living room talking to Uncle Douglas. My daughter Victoria, she's brilliant, making a real name for herself in corporate law, going to be partner before she's 35. And your son, the surgeon. Marcus is doing incredible work at New York Presbyterian, saved 3 lives last week alone. 3 lives. What about Delphine? A pause, a long pause. Delphine is... Well, she's doing some nonprofit work, still trying to figure things out. You know how young people are these days. Still trying to figure things out. I was 32 years old. I had a master's degree from Stanford. I ran an organization that had impacted 50,000 lives, and I was still trying to figure things out. I set down the spoon and walked to the bathroom, locked the door, stared at myself in the mirror, told myself not to cry, failed. Dinner was at 6. 12 people around the long mahogany table my parents bought after my father's promotion 15 years ago. Candles flickered. The china was the expensive set, the one we only used for holidays. Everything looked perfect. Everything felt terrible. My father stood at the head of the table, wine glass raised. Before we eat, I want to say what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for Victoria's incredible success this year. Her hard work and dedication to her career make us so proud. I'm grateful for Marcus, who's saving lives every single day at one of the best hospitals in the country. Your mother and I are blessed to have such accomplished children. He paused, looked at me. And Delphine, we're grateful that she's here with us, and we hope she finds her way soon. Finds her way. Like I was lost. Like the past 7 years of my life had been me wandering in the wilderness instead of building something meaningful. Everyone raised their glasses. I raised mine too, mechanically. The wine tasted like ash. We started eating. The turkey was perfect. The stuffing was delicious. Everything tasted wrong. Uncle Douglas started it. So Delphine's still unemployed, I see. I set down my fork. I'm not unemployed. I run a nonprofit organization. Nonprofit is just a fancy word for doesn't make money right. He laughed. Others joined in that uncomfortable laughter that happens when someone says something mean but packages it as a joke. Victoria jumped in. Come on, Uncle Doug, Delphine is doing charity work. It's cute. Cute. She called 7 years of my life cute, like it was a phase, like it was a hobby. Like 50,000 people with clean water was just adorable. Tiffany leaned forward. I mean, it's great for your resume, I guess, when you decide to get a real job. This is a real job. Marcus tried to help, which somehow made it worse. Dell does important work. She's helping people who don't have access to clean water. That's very noble, Aunt Linda said in that tone that made noble sound like naive. But honey, you can't pay rent with good intentions. You need to think practically. My mother sighed. I keep telling her that. She could be making 6 figures at Google right now. They wanted her. They actually wanted her. Instead, she's playing in the dirt in Africa, my father added. No offense, sweetheart, but it's irresponsible at your age. Playing in the dirt. 50,000 people had clean water because of the systems I designed, the teams I trained, the partnerships I built. And my father called it playing in the dirt. I tried to explain about the UN contract, tried to make them understand. We just secured a $30 million partnership with the United Nations. We're scaling to 10 countries. This is massive. Marcus looked genuinely interested. Wait, so the UN is paying you $30 million? No. That's for the organization, for implementing water systems across multiple countries over 5 years. So what do you personally make from this? My salary stays the same, $45,000. Victoria laughed, actually laughed. You know what's funny? My paralegal makes more than you. My paralegal. The person who files my paperwork makes more than my sister who went to Stanford. The table erupted in laughter. Not mean laughter exactly, but not kind either. The laughter of people who genuinely find something absurd. Uncle Douglas raised his glass. At least Victoria has a job, though. Delphine is technically unemployed by normal standards. If you don't get a W-2 from a real company, are you really employed? More laughter. My father nodded. He has a point. By traditional metrics, nonprofit work isn't really employment. I felt something break inside me. Something that had been cracking for years finally shattered. I helped 50,000 people access clean water, I said quietly. Tiffany patted my hand like I was a child. That's great, sweetie, really. But can you afford to buy a house? Can you save for retirement? Do you have a 401k health insurance? I have health insurance through the organization. What's the deductible? Marcus asked, genuinely curious. Probably terrible, right? Nonprofits always have terrible benefits. It's fine. Define fine. I didn't answer. Victoria leaned back in her chair. This is what we're trying to make you understand, Dell. What you're doing isn't sustainable. You're 32. You should be building wealth, not building wells in countries most of us can't even find on a map. Those countries have names. Those people have names. The little girl I met in Kenya, her name is Amara. She used to walk 5 miles every day for dirty water. Now she goes to school because there's a well in her village. A well I helped design and build. My mother reached over and squeezed my hand. We know you're helping people, honey. We do. But you're not helping yourself. What happens when you're 50 and you have no savings? When you need to retire and you have nothing? Then I'll have the knowledge that I spent my life doing something meaningful. My father shook his head. Everyone thinks their work is meaningful, Delphine. The difference is most of us get paid properly for it. Most of us don't sacrifice our entire futures for feel-good stories. Feel-good stories. That's what my life's work was to them. Feel-good stories. I stopped eating, stopped trying to explain. Sat there while they moved on to other topics, discussing Victoria's latest courtroom victory, Marcus's successful surgery, Tiffany's promotion. I became invisible at my own family's table. After dinner, we moved to the living room for coffee and dessert. My mother brought out her famous pumpkin pie. Everyone oohed and awed. I stood by the window looking out at the dark yard, wishing I was anywhere else. Victoria's phone rang. She answered it, her voice shifting to that professional tone she used for work. "Yes, this is Victoria. Right now it's Thanksgiving. I understand." "Yes, I can handle that. Give me 30 minutes." She hung up and announced to the room, "Sorry, everyone, I have to take care of a work emergency, client crisis. They need me to review contracts tonight." My father beamed. "See, this is what a real career looks like. They need you even on Thanksgiving. That's success. That's being indispensable." Victoria gathered her things, then looked at me. "I bet no one's calling you for urgent nonprofit emergencies, huh, Dell?" Uncle Douglas thought this was hilarious. What would that even be? Emergency water bottle delivery? Someone needs urgent charity. The room filled with laughter again. I felt my chest tighten. My vision blurred slightly. I needed to leave. I needed to get out of this house, away from these people who were supposed to love me but clearly had no respect for who I'd become. But before I could move, my mother came up behind me. "Delphine, can we talk in private?" We went to the downstairs bathroom. She closed the door. "I need to be honest with you," she started. "Your father and I are embarrassed." The word hit me like a physical blow. Embarrassed. Our friends ask about our children. We tell them Victoria is about to make partner at her firm. We tell them Marcus is a cardiac surgeon saving lives at Presbyterian. And then they ask about you. What do you tell them? We don't know what to tell them. That you're digging wells in Africa, that you make less than their housekeepers, that you turn down Google to do charity work. It's not charity work, it's engineering, it's public health, it's infrastructure development. It's embarrassing, Delphine. You have a degree from Stanford and you're living like a college student. You're 32 years old. When are you going to grow up? I am grown up. I'm doing exactly what I trained to do. I'm using my engineering degree to solve real problems. Real problems are here. Your real problem is that you have no savings, no husband, no future. Those are real problems. I just told you we got a $30 million UN contract. How is that not a future? Because it's not your future. It's your organization's future. What do you have? What can you point to and say this is mine? I have 50,000 people who don't have to drink dirty water anymore. That's mine. I built that. My mother looked at me with something close to pity. "You can't put that in a bank account, honey. You can't retire on that. You can't give us grandchildren on that." And there it was, the real issue. I wasn't following the script. I wasn't getting married, buying a house in the suburbs, producing grandchildren for Sunday dinners. I was off script, and it was making everyone uncomfortable. "I need you to understand something," she continued. "We love you. We do. But this nonprofit phase needs to end. You're not 22 anymore. You can't keep pretending you're saving the world. It's time to get a real job, make real money, and build a real life." "This is my real life." "No, sweetheart, this is you being selfish. You're doing what makes you feel good without thinking about anyone else, about us, about your future family, about reality." Selfish. I'd given up six-figure salaries, nice apartments, vacations, new clothes, everything my Stanford classmates took for granted. I worked 80 hours a week for barely enough to survive. I'd spent 7 years of my life trying to solve one of the world's biggest problems, and I was selfish. I walked out of the bathroom, straight through the living room, grabbed my coat and my bag. "Where are you going?" my father asked. "We haven't finished dessert." "I need to leave." "Now it's Thanksgiving, you just got here." "I can't be here anymore." My mother followed me to the door. "You're being dramatic," Victoria called from the living room. "Always so sensitive. Can't handle a little reality check." Marcus stood up. "Dell, come on, don't leave like this." But I was already out the door, in my car, pulling out of the driveway while my family stood in the doorway watching me go. My mother shook her head. My father's face was hard. Victoria looked annoyed. I drove 6 hours back to Oakland through tears, called in sick to work the next day, which I never did. Spent Black Friday in my apartment crying and eating leftover takeout and questioning everything. Had I made a mistake? Had I wasted 7 years of my life? Were they right? My phone buzzed with a message from my mother. You embarrassed us by leaving early. Your father is very disappointed. When you're ready to apologize and have an adult conversation about your future, call us. I turned off my phone and cried harder. The week after Thanksgiving was brutal. I threw myself into work because work was the only thing that made sense, the only place where what I did mattered, where people valued my contribution. Jamie noticed. You okay, boss? You've been here since 5 in the morning every day this week. I'm fine, just a lot to do. How was Thanksgiving? It was... It was Thanksgiving. She didn't push, which I appreciated. Instead, she brought me terrible coffee and helped me finalize the UN contract details. We were expanding to Tanzania, Cambodia, and Bolivia, training programs for local communities, sustainable water systems that would last decades, real measurable impact. My family hadn't called. I hadn't called them. The silence felt like its own kind of punishment, but I poured everything into the work, designed new filtration systems, set up partnerships with local governments, recruited engineers willing to work for passion instead of profit, built something that mattered even if my family couldn't see it. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, something unexpected happened. A documentary filmmaker named Sarah Chen had been following Clean Flow Initiative for the past year. I'd agreed to let her crew tag along on site visits, thinking maybe a small documentary would help with fundraising. I'd honestly forgotten about it. The documentary was called Drops of Hope. It premiered on Netflix on a Tuesday. By Friday, it had 10 million views. The documentary opened with Amara, that 8-year-old girl from Kenya I'd met years ago, the one who'd inspired everything. The cameras followed her daily routine before Clean Flow arrived. The 5-mile walk, the dirty river, the sickness, the missed school days, her baby brother's grave. Then it showed the transformation, the well installation, the first time clean water flowed, Amara's face, her mother's tears, the entire village celebrating. Amara looked into the camera and said, "Before I walked for water, now I walk to school. Before my brother died from bad water, now my sister will live. This lady from America, Delphine, she gave us life." The documentary showed our work across 3 countries, showed the engineering behind the systems, showed me explaining the philosophy. Clean water isn't charity, I said to the camera standing beside a well in Uganda. It's a basic human right. Every single person on this planet deserves access to clean water, not as a gift, as a right. And if the systems exist to make that happen, but we're not implementing them, that's not a resource problem. That's a priority problem. The documentary went viral, absolutely viral. Within a week, 20 million views, 30 million. Celebrities started tweeting about it. Leonardo DiCaprio shared it. Oprah posted about it on Instagram. My phone exploded. CNN wanted an interview. The BBC called. The New York Times wanted to do a feature. Good Morning America, the Today Show 60 Minutes. Everyone wanted to talk about Clean Flow, about the work, about the impact. Donations poured in. $5 million in 1 week. People wanted to help, wanted to be part of it, wanted to fund more wells, more systems, more training programs. I was overwhelmed, terrified, grateful. This was everything I'd worked for, this validation, this platform, this opportunity to scale even faster. But my family still hadn't called. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving on a Monday morning, I got a phone call from a New York number I didn't recognize. Ms. Delphine, this is calling from Time magazine. Is this a good time? I almost hung up thinking it was spam. Sure. This is Editor-in-Chief. I'm calling to inform you that Time magazine has selected you as our Person of the Year. I laughed, literally laughed. I'm sorry, what? Person of the Year? We've been tracking your work for the past 18 months. The documentary brought you to our editorial team's attention for this honor specifically. Your impact on global humanitarian efforts, your innovation in sustainable water solutions, the lives you've changed. It's unprecedented for someone your age leading an organization of your size. We'd like to feature you on our cover. The announcement goes public next Monday. I sat down. Or maybe I fell. I'm not sure. This is real. Completely real. Congratulations. We'll need you in New York for a photo shoot on Thursday. My assistant will email you details. We're very excited about this. After we hung up, I sat in my office for 30 minutes. Didn't move, didn't call anyone, just sat there processing. Jamie found me. Boss, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Time magazine just called. And I'm person of the year. She screamed, literally screamed, started crying, hugged me, called the rest of the staff. Within minutes, the entire office was celebrating. Champagne someone had been saving for the UN contract signing. Tears, hugs, joy. But all I could think was, will my family care now? Now that the world is watching? Will they finally see me? The announcement went public on Monday at 8 in the morning Eastern Time. The cover photo was me standing next to a well in Uganda surrounded by children. Some of them were drinking fresh water from cups. Others were laughing. Amara stood next to me, her hand in mine. The headline read, "Delphine, the woman who brought hope one drop at a time." Within an hour, it was trending #1 worldwide on Twitter. Every news outlet picked it up. My phone became unusable from the notifications. The CleanFlow website crashed from traffic. News vans showed up outside our Oakland office. The Today Show wanted me for their 8 o'clock hour. Good Morning America was bidding against them. The White House called, the actual White House. They wanted me at a state dinner next month. But the messages I noticed most came from my family. 8:15 in the morning, my phone started buzzing with texts. Mom, sweetheart, we just saw the news Time magazine. We're so proud of you. Call us immediately. Dad, my daughter, person of the year, I always knew you'd do something special. Call when you can. Victoria, OMG, Dell. I can't believe this. My baby sister on the cover of Time. Call me Ace, so incredibly proud. Marcus. Yes, this is unbelievable. Person of the year. I told everyone you were doing important work. Can't wait to celebrate Uncle Douglas. Delphine, your old uncle is so proud of you. Always knew you were destined for greatness. We should talk soon. Aunt Linda, you're an inspiration to us all. Can't wait to tell everyone about our niece, the person of the year. Tiffany, this is insane. Can you get me on the guest list for the Time Gala? I'd love to be there to support you. I read every message, felt sick, felt angry, felt something I didn't have words for. 3 weeks ago, I was unemployed. 3 weeks ago, my work was cute. 3 weeks ago, they were embarrassed by me. Now I was an inspiration. Now they'd always known I'd do something special. Now they wanted to celebrate. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I did the interviews, talked about Amara, talked about the 50,000 people who had clean water before Time magazine cared, talked about the 2 million we'd reach with the UN partnership, talked about water as a human right, not a privilege. Every interviewer asked about my family. Are they proud of you? I smiled, said what I was supposed to say. They're supportive. But inside, I was screaming. 3 days after the announcement, my entire family showed up at my office. No warning, no call ahead. Just showed up. I was in a meeting with potential donors when Jamie knocked on the door. Boss, your family is here. All of them. In the lobby, with flowers and champagne and balloons. I excused myself from the meeting, walked downstairs. There they were. My mother, my father, Victoria Marcus, even Uncle Douglas and Aunt Linda and Tiffany. All of them. Smiling, holding bouquets, looking proud. My mother rushed forward and hugged me. Sweetheart, we couldn't wait another minute to celebrate with you. We're so sorry we didn't understand before. Your work is incredible. My father grabbed my hand. Delphine, I was wrong. So wrong. You're changing the world. I should have seen it. I should have supported you from the beginning. Victoria had tears in her eyes. Del, I was such a horrible sister. I was jealous, if I'm being honest. You had the courage to follow your passion. I just followed expectations. Can you forgive me? Please? Marcus hugged me tight. You're doing more important work than any of us. I see that now. I'm sorry it took Time magazine for me to really see you. They wanted photos. Lots of photos. For social media, Tiffany explained. Everyone wants to know we're your family. It's so exciting. Uncle Douglas clapped me on the shoulder. I always believed in you, kiddo. Always knew you had something special. I stood there, silent, cold, watching them perform their pride, their support, their love, all of it conditional, all of it based on external validation they finally couldn't ignore. "Where were you 3 weeks ago?" I asked quietly. The lobby went silent. "What do you mean, honey?" My mother's smile faltered. "3 weeks ago, at Thanksgiving. Where was this support, this pride, this belief in my work? We didn't understand then." My father started. "Nothing has changed. Nothing. I'm doing the exact same work I was doing at Thanksgiving. The exact same work I've been doing for 7 years. The only difference is Time magazine put me on a cover. That's it. The 50,000 people who had clean water 3 weeks ago. They still have clean water. They had it before the magazine cared. They had it when you called me unemployed." My mother reached for me. "We made a mistake. We're sorry. We want to make it right. You called my life's work cute. You called it playing in the dirt. You said I was embarrassing you, that I was selfish, that I needed to grow up and get a real job." Victoria was crying now. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, Dell, we're family." "You're right. We're family. And family should support each other before the world validates them. Family should believe in each other when no one else does. But you didn't. You believed in me when Time magazine told you to. Not before. Not when it mattered." "We want a second chance," Marcus pleaded. "Do you? Or do you want to be associated with Person of the Year? Do you want to tell your friends about your famous sister? Do you want invitations to the galas and the photo opportunities and the social media moments?" Silence. I looked at each of them, saw their faces, saw the shame mixed with the desperation mixed with the calculation. They wanted back in, but not because they'd realized they were wrong, because the world had told them I was right. "I need you to leave," I said. "Delphine, please," my mother begged. "Please go. All of you. I have work to do, real work, the kind of work that mattered before the magazine cover, and will matter long after everyone forgets about this. You can't just shut us out." My father said, his voice hard now. "We're your family." "Then act like it. Act like family when the cameras aren't watching, when the magazines aren't calling, when it's just me doing work that matters even if no one's celebrating it. Come back when you can do that. Until then, please leave my office." They left, slowly, looking back, hoping I'd change my mind. I didn't. I went back upstairs, finished my meeting with the donors, raised another $2 million for wells in Cambodia, came home to my tiny one-bedroom apartment in Oakland, and cried for 3 hours. Not because I missed them, but because I'd finally stood up for myself, finally drew a boundary, finally said that my worth wasn't determined by their approval or Time magazine's cover or anyone else's validation. I was enough. The work was enough. It always had been. The months after Time magazine were surreal. I traveled to 5 countries, met with presidents and UN officials and billionaire philanthropists, gave speeches at Harvard and Stanford and Oxford. The work exploded in the best possible way. Clean flow expanded faster than I'd ever imagined. But the moment that mattered most happened 6 months after the magazine cover. I was back in Uganda visiting the village where I'd first met Amara. She was 10 now, taller, confident, thriving. We sat by the well, the one that had changed her life. She told me about school, about her dreams of becoming an engineer like me, about her baby sister, who'd never known what it was like to walk 5 miles for dirty water. "You changed my life," she said. "You changed mine too," I told her. "You showed me what matters." And I meant it. Because sitting there with Amara, I realized something. Time magazine's validation felt good. Of course it did. But it wasn't what made the work meaningful. Amara going to school made it meaningful. 50,000 people with clean water made it meaningful. 2 million people who would have clean water in 5 years made it meaningful. The work was always enough. I was always enough. Whether my family saw it or not, whether the world saw it or not. I started therapy when I got back to Oakland. Needed to process the family trauma, the conditional love, the years of feeling like I wasn't good enough unless I fit into their definition of success. My therapist asked me, "What do you want from your family now?" I thought about it, really thought about it. I want them to respect my choices even when no one's watching, even when it doesn't benefit them, even when my life doesn't look like what they imagined. And if they can't do that, then I'll be okay without them, because I've built a life that matters to me. That's enough. And it was. It really was. 6 months after the time announcement, I invited my family to Oakland. Not for them to apologize, not for them to grovel, but to set boundaries, to build something new. They came, all of them, sat in my tiny living room that barely fit 8 people, looked uncomfortable and hopeful and scared. I'm willing to rebuild our relationship, I told them. But things have to change. They nodded. You need to respect my choices even when the world isn't watching, even when I'm not on magazine covers, even when my life doesn't make sense to you. We will, my mother said, crying. We promise. You need to understand that success isn't just about money or titles or houses in Greenwich. Success is living a life aligned with your values. Mine are different from yours. That doesn't make them wrong. You're right, my father admitted. His voice broke. I measured you by metrics that didn't apply, by standards that weren't fair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Victoria spoke up. I was jealous. You had the courage to choose your own path. I've spent my whole life doing what was expected, making partner, buying the right condo, wearing the right clothes. But I'm not happy. You are. You were brave enough to choose happiness over approval. I resented you for that. Marcus added, You followed your heart. I followed a checklist, Dr. House, marriage, kids, all in the right order, all looking perfect from the outside. But you're changing the world, Dell. I'm just doing what I was told would make me successful. If you can't respect my choices going forward, I said firmly, if you can't support me when there are no cameras and no magazines, then we'll keep our distance. I won't let you back in just to be hurt again. We understand, my mother said. We'll do better. We'll be better. Please give us a chance. So I did, slowly, carefully, with boundaries I'd never had before. It's been a year since that Thanksgiving. A year since they called me unemployed. A year since Time magazine changed everything and nothing. Clean Flow now operates in 20 countries. We've brought clean water to 150,000 people. We're on track to reach 500,000 in 2 years. The work continues. The impact grows. My relationship with my family is better. Not perfect. Not what it was before, but healthier. They volunteer with Clean Flow now. My mother spent 2 weeks in Tanzania helping with community training. My father donated $1 million, his first major philanthropy. Victoria is considering leaving corporate law to do nonprofit legal work. Marcus leads medical missions in the countries where we work. They're trying, really trying, and I'm letting them. But I'm not depending on their approval anymore. That's the difference. Last week I got an email from Amara. She's 11 now, top of her class, wants to study engineering at university someday. She attached a photo of herself at the well, holding a cup of clean water, smiling. That photo sits on my desk, not the Time magazine cover, not the photos with celebrities or presidents or UN officials. Amara, holding clean water, smiling. That's what success looks like to me. So here's what I learned from that terrible Thanksgiving and everything that came after. Your worth isn't determined by other people's recognition. Not your family's, not the world's, not even Time magazine's. Your worth is determined by the integrity with which you live your life, by the gap between your values and your actions, by the impact you have on the people who need you most. Sometimes the people who should believe in you first believe in you last. My family believed in me after the whole world did. It hurt. It still hurts sometimes, but that doesn't make my work less important. It doesn't make the past 7 years less meaningful. It just means I had to learn to believe in myself enough for everyone. And I did. I do. The 50,000 people who had clean water before anyone cared mattered just as much as the hundreds of thousands who have it now. Amara's life mattered before the documentary, before the magazine, before the validation. The work was always enough. I was always enough. I just had to stop waiting for permission to believe that Thanksgiving was the worst day of my life and the best thing that ever happened to me. Worse because it showed me how conditional my family's love was, how much their support depended on me fitting into boxes I'd never fit into. Best because it freed me from needing their approval, from measuring my worth by their standards, from waiting for them to see what I'd known all along. What I do matters, not because Time magazine says so, but because Amara is in school, because 50,000 people, 150,000 people, soon 500,000 people have clean water, because lives are saved, because futures are possible, because little girls can dream of becoming engineers instead of walking 5 miles for dirty water. That matters. That's enough. I'm enough. And if you're watching this and wondering if you should follow your passion, even when your family doesn't understand, even when the world thinks you're crazy, even when the money isn't there, and the approval isn't there, and the validation isn't there, I want you to know something. Do it anyway. Do the work that calls to you, the work that matters to you, the work that might not make sense to anyone else, but makes perfect sense to your soul. Do it when no one's watching. Do it when everyone's criticizing. Do it when your family calls you unemployed and the world calls you foolish. Do it anyway, because someday you'll be sitting with your version of Amara, with the person whose life you changed, the impact you made, the difference that mattered, and you'll know deep in your bones that you were right all along. The work was always enough. You were always enough. You just had to believe it first. Sometimes the people who should support you don't. Sometimes your family breaks your heart. Sometimes the world takes years to notice what you've been doing all along. But that doesn't make it less important, less real, less worthy. You are enough. Your work is enough. Even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching. That's the lesson no Thanksgiving dinner, no family judgment, no Time magazine cover can teach you. You have to learn it yourself. You have to believe it yourself. And once you do, you become truly unstoppable. Not because the world validated you, but because you validated yourself. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between following your passion and meeting your family's expectations? Have you ever felt like your work didn't matter because the people closest to you didn't see its value? Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and I'd love to hear your story. And if this resonated with you, if you needed to hear this today, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel because I share more stories about choosing courage over comfort, passion over approval, and purpose over expectations. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they're enough, that their work matters even when no one's celebrating it yet. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, you don't need Time magazine to tell you that you matter. You just need to believe it yourself. I'll see you in the next one.